Hi everyone, and welcome back to Prevention in My Kitchen, or welcome to Prevention in My Kitchen if this is the first time you've ever been here. My name is Angela, and I am a parent educator, a strengthening families facilitator, and you are in my kitchen, actually. So one of the things that's really great about having raised all the kids that I did is that I was able to use some of the things that we knew from research and put a lot of those into practice. And so I jump on, I share a skill or two with you, and the whole idea is that you have all the tools that you need in your toolbox to raise really resilient kids. Today, we're gonna be making some tacos. Now, I have to say, it is kind of funny that I actually do a series on prevention in my kitchen since I actually rarely cook. It's not rare that I cook, but I'm not the best cook in our house. So I want to make a couple of points when we talk about prevention. What we're really trying to do is think about what is it that our families need? What do we already have to raise really resilient kids? And that's really important because we want our kids to be able to deal with whatever they run into in their lives. But I'm like you, we work or we have other activities. And in addition to that, we're also raising kids. So this is a 3-part series. One of the things that we talk a lot about is prevention. And prevention is really important because what we're trying to make sure of is that our kids end up in their adult lives in a really healthy way. So this 3-part series, I promise you, it's a mini series, but it really deserves more than one part. So today we're going to talk about prevention and what I like to call the big 3. We're going to put a parent guide with some handouts and some activities on our deltaprevention.org website. And so our deltaprevention.org website will give you everything that you need while we talk about this. So let's start with what we call the big 3. When we're talking about prevention in families, what we're looking at is bonding, boundaries, and monitoring. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one, but those are your 3 things, the 3 big topics you want to think about in order to raise resilient kids, in order to get those kids into a healthy adult life where they're making good decisions, they haven't had significant challenges growing up. So bonding is interesting because what happens with bonding is really interesting because what you're trying to do is come up with those small moments in your family, the moments where you are connected with your kids. Now that's harder when you're like me, working a job and trying to raise kids, and then they have activities. And I'm not trying to ask you to turn into a cruise director in your house, but if you can create those moments, like for example, if you would spend 10 minutes of one-on-one time with them. We call that my time. Try and do that every day, just 10 minutes. Let them lead, let them choose the activity. Or maybe they join you in the kitchen so that they can help with the family meal. That's a great opportunity to bond with them. Or, you know what, friends, it could even be as easy as, you're sitting at the table and you give them a smile and a wink. You're really just trying to set up those sort of bonding moments with them so that they know that you're with them, you're on their side, you care about them. Those are really important in their brains. It really sets up their brain development in a really great way. The second thing I want to mention is what we call boundaries. And boundaries aren't like saying, no, you're not allowed to do that because I said so. Of course, there are things that they can't do because we've told them they can't do it. But setting boundaries really is like, what are the rules in our household? And then being really consistent about those rules. And here's another thing I want to mention, friends. At Delta Prevention, we're a nonprofit. We've been doing this work for a long time. We really look at the research around these things. But when you set up like, what are the rules of the home? Here's something I want to ask you. Ask yourself, do we have as a family rules around things like drug and alcohol use? Now, you might have a 7-year-old and you're like, what rules would I need for my 7-year-old? What about something like you don't take somebody else's medication? I mean, it's a discussion point and it sets you up to have bigger and better discussions as they get older because they get accustomed to those discussions. So that's really setting boundaries. You don't need a bunch. Let's just say like 3 to 5 good rules that you're consistent about in the family. And I bet if you sat down as a family and said like, what are our biggies? What are our big family rules? pretty much everyone would be able to talk about them and be real consistent about those rules. That's boundaries. So bonding, boundaries. Oops, maybe shouldn't have put cheese on that one. And then the third one is monitoring. Now, you might say, well, obviously monitoring, I know exactly where my kids are at all times. Monitoring isn't surveillance, friends. Monitoring is, do I know not only where my kids are they in a good, safe situation? Are they with other kids that aren't gonna help them choose not to break the rules, that kind of thing? Are the adults around them paying attention? But listen, monitoring, you guys, it's also about checking in with their heart. It's about, maybe when you are sitting with them and cooking, maybe you say to them, hey, how are you? How are you right now? How are things going for you? Just a quick check-in to make sure they're doing okay. That's really what monitoring is. Now, also, if you have older kids, you're gonna wanna make sure, are they where they said they were gonna be? Are they with whom they said they were gonna be with? And now I can tell you in my career, I've heard many, many, many parents say my kid would never. Friends, we all say that. But the reason why they don't is because of bonding, boundaries, and monitoring. So if there are things you want to keep your kids safe from, those are the big three. We're not talking surveillance, we're talking about relationship and what we call trust but verify. Just check in. If they say they're going to be at a friend's house, pop by, call the parent, that type of thing. All right, so here's my key takeaway for you. So you're going to pick one of these things this week, and all I want you to do is I want you to think about, how can I incorporate that? Can I sit with them in the morning and make sure we do my time before they go to school? Can I have a chat as a family about what our family rules are, what's important to us? Those kinds of things are going to make a real difference. The next part of this series, friends, and for some of you, you may be like, ooh, Angela, this is the part I want to hear. The next part that you'll hear, if you'll join us, is what do you do when you think there might be a problem? So we're going to ask you to come back and do that one with us. Until next time, deltaprevention.org is where you go to get all of the documents. There could be lots of ideas on how you could do bonding, boundaries, and monitoring. And come back for the next one, what to do when you think there might be a problem. And have a great day, everyone.